I thought family meant loyalty. I paid $8,000 to save Thanksgiving, only to be banned from it. But when I discovered just how deep their betrayal went, I stopped trying to earn their love. If you believe success comes slowly, through pain, grit, and reclaiming your worth, then you'll feel the story. Subscribe to my channel for more powerful journeys like this one. I'm Emma Carter, 29, a personal chef in Asheville, North Carolina. I pay my debts early, cook like my grandma taught me, and trust too easily, especially when it comes to my family. The $8,000 wasn't a loan. Not officially, anyway. It was my dad's voice over the phone at 11 p.m., shaking frantic. It's the generator. It died. We can't host Thanksgiving unless we replace it, and you know how your mom gets when things aren't perfect. He asked. I wired it. No contracts, no strings. Just that small, desperate voice I still associated with the man who carried me piggyback to bed when I fell asleep on the couch watching Jeopardy. That man wouldn't screw me over. But that man died a long time ago, replaced by someone slicker, colder. I just hadn't accepted it yet. The Carters host Thanksgiving like it's the damn Met Gala. 100 guests, catered desserts, custom centerpieces, wine pairings with every dish. It's not a dinner. It's an annual family showcase. And this year I was supposed to cater it. Until I got the text. Emma, after giving it some thought, we've decided to go in a different direction for Thanksgiving. Don't worry about the generator. We've got it covered. Best if you don't come this year. Hope you understand. Dad. Not we love you, not thanks for saving our asses, not even a phone call. A text. Like I was some employee being cut from a spreadsheet. I stared at the message for a full 10 minutes before I could breathe again. Then I did what I always do when I'm betrayed. I cooked. There's a special kind of clarity that comes when you're chopping onions at midnight, barefoot in your apartment, crying harder than the knife makes you. That clarity turned into a plan. Because my family didn't just reject me. They took my money, my time, and my role and tossed me like old parsley. And they thought I'd take it. Oh no, not this time. Because I hadn't just paid for the generator. I'd paid for everything. You see, when Dad called in a panic, he wasn't just worried about the generator. He had other bills, permits, alcohol licenses, special orders piling up. And he needed them off his back. He didn't tell me all that. But I paid those invoices too. Why? Because I stupidly thought it meant something. That I was part of the legacy. That this year would be different. What they didn't realize. All those contracts were in my name, which meant I had the power to pull the plug on everything they took for granted. And I was going to cancel more than just the party. I was going to cancel the illusion they built their lives on. The first call I made was to Whitley Rentals, the company supplying the tent, chairs, and space heaters. Hi, this is Emma Carter. The rental under contract number 5572. Yes, for the Carter Thanksgiving event? I need to cancel. Yes, I'm the signatory. Pause. Is there a cancellation fee? No problem. Bill it to the same card. Thank you. Click. One down. I felt nothing, no guilt, no hesitation. Just a strange calm washing over me. Like cutting the dead weight off something sinking. Next was the catering team. Yes, they had gone behind my back and booked someone else. A local French fusion place my mom liked to brag about. But guess who signed the catering deposit and held the kitchen rental permit? Me. I called the head chef personally. Chef Dumbers. I'm afraid you'll need to cancel your event for November 24th at the Carter estate. The permit you're using was issued under my name. It won't be valid. She wasn't happy, but legal's legal. I had the documentation to prove it. By noon, their big fancy Thanksgiving event was hanging by a thread. And they didn't even know it yet. You might think this was about revenge. And yeah, maybe part of it was. But mostly it was about the pattern. Because this wasn't the first time my parents used me and cut me off. When I was 19, they borrowed my tuition money to float the mortgage on our second home. When I was 24, I co-signed a car loan for my younger brother because we're family, Emma. When I started my catering business, I gave them free events every holiday for 3 years straight. Every time I helped, they thanked me with fake smiles and backhanded compliments. Every time I pulled away, I was dramatic, ungrateful, too emotional. Well, let them call me what they want this time. They'd be saying it without a tent, without food, And without a damn party to hide behind. I sat on the edge of my bed that night holding my phone, debating whether to warn them. Not for their sake, for mine. Because part of me still wanted to believe my mom would call and say, "I'm sorry, Emma. We were wrong." But that part of me was dying. Instead, I scheduled the final cancellation email for 6 a.m. Thanksgiving morning. Sent from a brand new address they wouldn't be able to block. Then I opened my photo app and scrolled back to the only picture I had of all of us smiling for real. It was from years ago. A simpler time. Before the money. Before the pride. Before they chose appearance over love. I stared at that picture for a long time. Then I deleted it. Not because I didn't love them, but because I finally loved myself more. Thanksgiving morning used to be my favorite. Waking up early to cinnamon and nutmeg in the air. The soft clatter of pots and pans. My mom humming Motown while she prepped pies. Dad fussing over the fireplace like it was the crown jewel of the house. This year, I woke up at 6 a.m. sharp. Not to bake. Not to baste. But to burn. I checked my email. The cancellation notices had gone out. My inbox was filling with confirmations and receipts. Tent. Cancelled. Catering revoked. Bartending refunded. Florist. Undone. No delivery trucks would be arriving at the Carter estate today. I made coffee. Black.
No cream. No sugar.
Just heat. And I waited. The first call came at 8:12 a.m. Emma. Dad's voice. I didn't answer. Voicemail. Emma. What the hell is going on? The rental company just called saying everything's off. The damn tent's gone. The heaters. The food. Call me back now. He sounded frantic. Panicked. Good. The second call was from my brother, Jonah. 2 years younger, still riding the golden child high he earned by, well, doing absolutely nothing. Emma. This is low even for you. You think ruining Thanksgiving's gonna get you attention? Newsflash. It won't. You're pathetic. He hung up before I could even want to answer. No mention of the $8,000. No mention of the generator I paid for that was now humming away to power their empty estate. No mention of the fact that they disinvited me from the very holiday I had just saved. By noon, the Carter estate was in full meltdown mode. Neighbors called. Aunts texted. Rumors flew. People showed up expecting champagne and turkey, only to find folding chairs still stacked, no food, and my mom in a full-blown passive-aggressive spiral on the porch. I heard she told people Emma had a nervous breakdown, and that's why the event was canceled. Goo. If that's the story she needed to sleep at night, fine. But I knew better. So did everyone else who'd been watching this family crack behind its polished exterior. That afternoon I posted one photo to social media. Not a rant. Not a call-out. Just a photo of my quiet little kitchen table. Cranberry sauce, mashed potatoes, roast chicken for one, and a slice of bourbon pecan pie. Caption. Peace tastes better than pretending. I turned off my phone. And for the first time in years I ate Thanksgiving dinner in silence, without walking on eggshells, without feeling invisible, without being used. It was the loneliest, most liberating meal of my life. I didn't expect the silence after Thanksgiving to last as long as it did. No calls. No texts. No one barging in with half-hearted apologies or passive-aggressive justifications. It was almost like I never existed. And that, I think, hurt more than anything else. Because deep down, even after all this, some twisted part of me still expected them to come around. To admit what they did. To see me. But instead they moved on. Just like they always do. 3 days later, I got a voicemail from my cousin Rachel. She was the only one in the family who'd ever treated me like a human being instead of a tool. Emma, I don't know what happened with your parents, but, girl, that party, it was a disaster. No food.
No decor.
No plan B. Your mom nearly cried in front of Aunt Vicky, which I didn't even know she was capable of. Anyway, call me. I made extra stuffing. That made me smile. A real one. But I didn't call her back. Not yet. Instead, I opened my laptop. I wasn't done. Because while canceling the event had shaken their little kingdom, it hadn't touched the real throne. The Carter family brand. You see, my mom and dad weren't just socialites, they were small-town royalty. HOA presidents, community donors, country club darlings. They built their lives on their reputation. And in their world, perception was currency. I had receipts. All the invoices they had me pay. Ones they said would be reimbursed. All the texts begging for a little help just this once. Even the ones where Mom called her best friend Janet to cancel Emma's menu, without telling me I'd been replaced. I gathered them all. I didn't leak them. Not yet. But I wrote something I'd never written before. A full breakdown. Not angry, not cruel. Just honest. Clear. Controlled. Started with, "This is the last Thanksgiving I will ever pay to be invisible." I didn't post it. I saved it. Because this story wasn't just about revenge. It was about control. And for once I finally had it. A week later, a certified letter arrived at my apartment. Inside was a check. Made out for $8,000. No note.
No apology.
Just cold, clinical reimbursement. I stood over my kitchen sink, holding the check between my fingers and laughed. Because they thought money could fix what they'd broken. They didn't understand that this wasn't about the money anymore. It was about me. And I was just getting started. I didn't cash the check. I slid it into an old recipe box I kept tucked behind my microwave. The same one my grandma used to store her index cards with notes like, "Extra cinnamon for Uncle Ray." And "Don't tell your mother this has bourbon in it." It felt symbolic somehow. Like placing their guilt between memories they could never touch. And then I mailed the red envelope. Not to them. To someone more dangerous. See, while my parents played politics in the HOA, they made a few enemies. Not the kind that scream at meetings, those are easy to ignore. No, I'm talking about the quiet, calculating kind. The ones who smile politely and wait for just the right moment to expose you. Like Mrs. Margot Pine, president of the Lakeview Property Standards Committee and, more importantly, the town's unofficial gossip gatekeeper. Inside the envelope, copies of unpaid permits, illegally modified fire safety equipment at the Thanksgiving venue, and a polite little note. Thought you should know what really happened at the Carter Thanksgiving this year. No return address. Just enough fuel to spark curiosity. I didn't need to start the fire. Just light the match. The fallout was slow but satisfying. A week later, I heard whispers through Rachel that the HO was reviewing Carter contributions. My dad had to step down from the board for a cooling-off period. And my mom? Well, she tried to post her usual overfiltered photos of brunches and charity galas, but something had shifted. Her comments were full of polite questions. "Hope everything's okay. Was this the party that got canceled? Still using the same caterer? Death by digital paper cuts." She started deleting comments. Then posts. Then finally she went silent altogether. And through it all I said nothing. I didn't fight. Didn't post. Didn't gloat. Because the power wasn't in the chaos. It was in the quiet. For the first time in my life I wasn't chasing their love. I wasn't begging for scraps. I wasn't giving in to guilt. I was just living. I catered a wedding that weekend for a sweet couple, who cried when they tasted my grandmother's cornbread recipe. They paid in full. Tipped well. Hugged me when it was over. It felt like breathing fresh air after years in a locked room.
No backhanded compliments.
No power plays. Just real joy. The kind I thought didn't exist anymore. Turns out it does. You just have to walk away from the people who made you believe it was rare. It was a Monday morning when I saw his name flash across my phone. Dad. I stared at it, half expecting it to disappear like a ghost. But it stayed. Calling. Ringing. I let it go to voicemail. Then listened. "Emma, I think it's time we talk."
No yelling.
No drama. Just talk. Your mother and I, we didn't handle things right. I know that. But maybe we can fix this. Fix this. As if this were a flat tire, not a betrayal years in the making. Still, the part of me that was always the good daughter, the peacekeeper, the fixer, the emotional janitor leaned forward, tempted. But I made myself wait. Not out of spite. Out of strategy. I called Rachel. "I got the call," I said. "He says he wants to fix things." She let out a dry laugh. "You know what that means, right? Someone's reputation is bleeding. They're not calling you because they miss you. They're calling you because they miss control." I hated how right she was. But it still didn't make it easy. I agreed to meet him. Public place. Broad daylight.
No, Mom.
We sat at a corner booth in a diner neither of us had ever been to. Neutral territory. He ordered black coffee. I didn't order anything. Emma, he began. I've been thinking about what happened. He paused like he wanted me to interject. I didn't. I know the Thanksgiving thing didn't go smoothly. I tilted my head. You banned me. He shifted. It wasn't a ban. It was a decision made in the moment. Tensions were high. Your mother thought you were upset. And then the cancellations happened. That hurt us. You know that, right? There it was. Not regret. Not remorse. Just damage control. Are you sorry you hurt me? I asked. Or sorry I finally stood up for myself? He looked stunned like no one had ever asked him that before. I didn't wait for the answer. I didn't come here for an apology, I said. I came here to give you a choice. His brows furrowed. A choice. I slid a piece of paper across the table. It was a list. Everything I paid for that month. The generator permits, catering deposits. Total. $8,912. If you want to fix things, I said, start here. Not with words. With accountability. You want to make this right? Pay me back. Not just the check. The full amount. He looked at the paper like it was a landmine. Money's not going to fix this, Emma. Funny, I said, standing up. That's exactly what you tried to use when you wanted forgiveness. And I walked out. Outside, the sun felt warmer. The sky a little clearer. Because for the first time I hadn't cried. I hadn't begged. I hadn't crumbled. I'd confronted the king of manipulation. And walked away before he could cast his next spell. And I knew something he didn't. Sometimes the only apology worth hearing is the silence after you stop waiting for one. It started with a storm. Literal, not metaphorical. A freak windstorm rolled through our town one weekend in December, knocking out power across half the city. Rachel called me up in a panic, asking if she could store a few boxes in my building since her garage had flooded. Of course I said yes. She brought them over, soaked and half falling apart. We stacked them in the corner of my hall closet and laughed about how life always had a flair for drama. But after she left, I noticed something wedged behind the last box. Plain beige file case. Unlabeled. I didn't remember putting it there. I pulled it out, heart thudding harder than I wanted to admit. It took me a few minutes to realize what I was looking at. Inside were folders, documents from my parents' estate lawyer. Property deeds, tax records, insurance, and tucked in the back, a manila envelope with my name written in my father's handwriting. I opened it slowly like the pages might bite. The letter inside was short. Emma, this was drafted last year before everything. You'll understand why we changed things. We had to. Love, Dad. Attached was a copy of the original will. Not the final one. The original. In it, I was listed as equal beneficiary. 50%. Half the estate. Half the land. Half the stocks. Half the damn lake house. Then came the second page. The amended version. My name? Gone. Every single asset split between Jonah and some trust fund for future heirs. The words blurred for a moment. Not because of tears but because of rage. They cut me out. Completely. After everything. After every payment, every rescue, every time I swallowed my pride for their approval, they still decided I wasn't worth the ink in their will. And yet they hadn't destroyed the draft. They hadn't shredded it, burned it, erased all evidence. They kept it, which meant part of them knew what they did was wrong. And in their arrogance or maybe their guilt, they left behind the proof. That was their mistake. Because I wasn't just some angry daughter anymore. I was the one with leverage. I scanned every page. Then I sent a copy to their estate lawyer with a single question. What would it take to challenge this version? No reply yet. But I wasn't in a rush. This wasn't about getting back what I lost. It was about making them feel the fear I had lived with my whole life. The fear of being discarded, overlooked, forgotten. And now? They'd know exactly what that felt like. The email from the estate lawyer came in 3 days later. Short. Formal. But it said exactly what I needed. It is within your legal right to request a formal challenge if undue influence or unjust exclusion can be reasonably demonstrated. Especially if prior drafts name you as a beneficiary. That's lawyer speak for Yes, you have a shot. I forwarded it to Rachel. She replied 2 minutes later. Holy hell, you're actually doing this. Yes, I was. I printed the email, stapled it to the original will, then wrote a letter in my own handwriting. You didn't just erase me from your legacy. You erased every birthday I paid for, every hospital bill, every night I drove you home when you couldn't see straight, every loan I never asked to be paid back, every moment I held this family together while you pretended I didn't matter. You taught me to be generous. You just never expected me to be brave, too. I'm not asking for anything. I'm fighting for everything. I mailed the whole package certified, signature required, to their front door. 2 days later I got the text. From my brother, Jonah. What the hell did you send them? Dad's pacing the house like a madman. Mom hasn't come out of her room. I didn't respond, but I smiled. A week passed. Then 2. I didn't hear a word from either of my parents. No calls. No letters.
No apology.
But Rachel invited me to dinner, her way of checking in without making it weird. You look lighter, she said as we ate mac and cheese on her back porch. I feel like I don't belong to them anymore, I replied. She nodded slowly. That's not a loss, Em. That's freedom. I still hadn't cashed the $8,000 check. It sat in the recipe box like a relic from another life. But I made a decision. I started drafting my own will, my own legacy. Not because I was planning for death, but because, for the first time in my life, I was planning for a future that didn't revolve around them. 2 days before Christmas, I got another letter. No return address, but the handwriting was my mom's. Inside was a single sheet of paper.
No direma.
No love, Mom. Just, you've made your point. We hope you're satisfied. I folded the letter slowly, then fed it into my shredder. Because this story isn't ending with them deciding how I feel. It's ending with me deciding how I move on. The day after New Year's, I found myself in the kitchen of my tiny apartment, humming a tune Grandma used to sing. The scent of roasting turkey filled the air. Not because I was cooking for anyone else. For myself. I'd spent the last few weeks building something no one in my family ever gave me. A home I could call my own. With the money I earned catering weddings, teaching cooking classes, and even selling a few of Grandma's secret recipes, I'd finally signed a lease on a small house just outside town. No HOA politics. No family drama. Just 4 walls and a door that locked on my terms. That afternoon, Rachel stopped by with a bottle of wine and a pie. We set the table, 2 place settings, simple and unpretentious. I looked at the empty seat across from me and smiled. I wasn't lonely, because I was done waiting for their approval. Done hoping for their love. A phone buzzed. It was a notification from the local paper. They'd run a feature on me. A profile on a young woman reclaiming her family's recipes and her life. The article called me a rising culinary star with a story of resilience. I laughed softly. I wasn't doing this for fame, or to prove them wrong. I was doing it for me. That night, as I ate my dinner, I thought about all the years I spent trying to belong to a family that never really wanted me. And I realized something. Revenge doesn't come from tearing others down. It comes from building yourself up. From turning the pain they gave you into the power you own. From setting a table for yourself, and finally taking your seat. The past wasn't my prison anymore. It was the soil where I planted my roots. And this time, I was growing for me. Whether you've given more than you had, or been cut out by the very people you fought to protect, just know this. You still hold the pen. You still get to write your next chapter. Sometimes, the strongest move isn't fighting back. It's walking away and building something better without them. Have you ever been pushed aside by the people who were supposed to stand by you? What did you do next? Drop a comment. I truly read them all, and I'd love to know where you're watching from. If this story made you feel seen, inspired, or even just a little stronger, please consider subscribing. Your support helps me keep telling the stories that others try to silence. Thank you for being here. You matter more than they ever made you believe.